Live from the studios overlooking the beautiful city of Rochester, New York, hosting Steeler Nation Live, your hosts, Big Tiz and Big O.
Welcome, Steeler Nation Live. Big Tiz.
And I'm Big O.
Guys, a lot of things happened this weekend in the NFL. The Steelers not coming out on top, which means the Steelers are out of the playoffs, Big O.
Yeah, unfortunate. We talked about this, Big Tiz. It's tough losing. Is it even tougher losing to the Ravens? Division rival, division foe, a team that we crushed, the team that Ben Roethlisberger threw 6 touchdowns, the team that Le'Veon Bell scored 3 touchdowns. I mean, does it hurt more? In my opinion, it hurts more.
It does. But the fact is, that's why, on any given Sunday, you play the team that's in front of you, and you can't go off what you did for last time. You do off what you've done for me lately, and the Steelers didn't do much in this game. The Ravens came in this game. They were poised to win this game because they knew they were playing away from home.
Right.
And also they knew that they had to come in there with a hardcore game plan, and they did all of it. And it looks like the Steelers just basically came into this game maybe thinking we beat them last time, we should beat them again. And you can't do that in the NFL. You have to take each game week by week, Big O.
Right. And when you look at the teams that you beat in the past, especially division rivals, how do we beat these guys and what do we do right? Well, we couldn't copy the last game because we were out Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
One of the key assets that one of the monumental players of the Pittsburgh Steelers that pushed this team to the limits, that went out there and defeated these teams. Not only were the Ravens destroyed, we beat up on the Colts and countless other teams. Granted, we lost the teams we should have beat, like the Jets, and we won't get into that. But when you lose your key element, that kind of changes the game plan. But Tomlin always preaches, next man up. There's no excuse. And I admire that in a coach. Next man up, no excuse. However, Le'Veon was a huge part of that.
Yeah, Le'Veon was a huge loss. But, we have to look at it this way. You put your men on the field, and like Tomlin always said, next man up. These guys got to learn to produce. I mean, if you're stepping into a spot, you're in the spotlight. This is your time. This is your chance to do what you need to do. And that didn't happen. Granted, I believe we did have a quality back in there at that time, but the fact was that maybe the line wasn't blocking like they should have, or like the game plan for the Ravens was to come in there, stuff the run, and force Ben to beat you which didn't happen. He didn't have a great game.
No.
So,
and then when you sign Ben Tate, who is a great running back, great tenure in Houston, had good times in Cleveland. Now this is the kind of running back that you want in your backfield, because you won't say he's a seasoned veteran, but he knows the game. And for him to play in that game after being signed 2 or 3 days before game time was huge. He played very, very well, and I was very impressed. Not only was that, you know how much I love that Josh Harris from Wake Forest just signed from the practice squad. After we let LeGarrette Blount go, I'm very impressed with this guy. I was in Pittsburgh for the Cincy game,
right.
And when he broke out that one run, they got called back for a holding, which was ridiculous. We all seen it. If you're there in Pittsburgh, a great night for football, 32 degrees, clear, crispy, beautiful night for football. I was like, give it to Josh Harris, off right tackle, and what's he do? He runs 60 yards. It would have cemented the game at that point, but I have a lot of aspirations for this young guy, and I really, 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 really hope that the Steelers continue to have Josh Harris in the backfield with Le'Veon. He's a great secondary back to go to. He's like a Willie Parker and a Rashard Mendenhall, all put into one.
Yeah, and I do believe he can be a good relief back for Bell. So if this continues, they can mold him into being a great back. So the fact is, and he looks like he's a hard-working back as well. So they need this type of guy, not like LeBlunt, LeGarrette, whatever.
Blount.
Either way, he's gone anyway. But not like this guy to where he would come in and maybe going off his name or what he did in New England. No, we need what have you done for us lately, and that's what the Steelers need. And this guy is a hard-working Steeler type of back.
Right, and we'll get into it later in the show about what went wrong during the game. Pretty much, obviously, everything went wrong. Ben, I do believe, suffered a concussion late in the game, which not to make an excuse, but somewhat explanations of why he was throwing the ball he was erratic. double, triple coverage, throwing interceptions. But can you blame the guy? He's a player. I mean, he's out there to win. But sometimes when you get that mentality, it could hurt you, not help you.
Exactly, and you're right about that. Hey guys, but you know what? There were other things that happened this weekend. On a somber note, we had one of ESPN longtime Stuart Scott passing over the weekend. This guy has 20 years of ESPN knowledge and experience, and he succumbed to cancer.
Right.
Which was huge. And we have other people out there that survived through it and gotten through it, like Robin Roberts, and she did some time in ESPN, and she's doing Good Morning America and different other things. But Stuart Scott was a great asset to the ESPN family, and we here at Steeler Nation Live would love to pay homage to this guy. This guy was a great asset. A lot of us grew up listening to this guy, just watching him, saying some of his coined phrases.
Yes, one of my favorites. Cooler, Big Tiz, cooler than the other side of the pillow.
Oh yeah.
And I did steal that from him. I love that. Many catchphrases from Stuart Scott, and he's the kind of guy that, I don't know about you, Big Tiz, but I look up to all the ESPN commentators, to add some kind of flavor to our show. We don't want to bore you too much, but then again, we don't want to steal anybody's stuff. But we just want to make this show as fashionable and as up-to-date as possible with a little humor in there. And Stuart Scott did it well, and battling cancer for the past 7 years. I mean, just this guy was a rock. And if you missed the ESPYs this year when he won the Valvano Award, check it out, folks. Make sure you have a box of tissues. I was bawling my eyes out. I'll tell you right now, Big Tiz, bawling my eyes out. And I don't know how this guy stood up there, talked about his family, talked about his daughters, and asked one of his daughters to come up and give him a hug because he needed one right at that point. How can you even talk about? How can even words come out of your mouth? You know what I'm saying? It's just check it out. You could YouTube it. You could Google it. I mean, the things that this guy talks about. I mean, I admire this man wholly, and it's maybe someday we'll be up there, Big Tiz. Maybe we can, break the ground and be up there just like him someday when we grow up.
Hopefully, like I said, this guy, he was the epitome of what a broadcaster would be, and he brought the knowledge and all the things that you need to bring out to the forefront in his career, his passion and love for the things that he loved to do. We here again at Steeler Nation Live, we pay homage to you, Stuart Scott, a heck of an individual, heck of a broadcaster, and most of all, one heck of a man. So guys, next up, we want to talk a little bit also as we move on in the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the game stats, the Steelers versus the Ravens in that game. I know a lot of you don't want to hear it, but let's go over it. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out and let's move forward. Like I said, a new season will be starting this year. It's 2015, a new season starting. So let's talk about this last ending of this season so we can learn from it.
Yeah. Well, Ben was typical Ben. He went, 31 he threw 45 attempts, 31 completions for 334 yards, 1 TD, but he had a couple of picks there. The one that Suggs had late in the game kind of sealed it for the Ravens, and the last touchdown that totally sealed it for us in the end zone. He attempted to throw it to Brown. He had 10 guys covering him. Just Ben trying to do too much. Ben trying to get the ball in there, but our rushing game didn't help either, and we all know why. We had Dree Archer, who's 5 foot whatever, 120 pounds soaking wet, and you have Ben Tate you signed 2 days before the game starts.
Right.
So the only thing that the Steelers went wrong, they put all their eggs in one basket, and they put all their money on red or black, whatever, rolled the dice, and hoping that Le'Veon did not get hurt, and it came back and bit us.
Oh yeah, it did. And it came back and bit us in grand fashion, but I don't know if that's what it all came down to, but it appears that way because, like I said, a good back, you need a hole to run through as well.
Right. And
there's been some games where Le'Veon's had 30 yards rushing, 27 yards rushing. Granted, he supplemented that with his pass catching ability, but the fact is, if the line, I don't know, the line sometimes they're on a roll in some games, and some games they go and they drop back. But you have the game plan for that because a lot of teams know that Pittsburgh's game was starting to come around the run. And so that's why I believe a lot more passes should have been shot to the tight end, Heath Miller, just because you have to make those linebackers drop off. Because that relentless pressure, of course, you're trying to stop the run. They're going to force you to try to pass, but how could you pass if they're all over you?
Right. And what Le'Veon brought to the table was not only can he run the ball, catch it, he can block.
Right.
So the big success that the Steelers had with him, when Ben was going back to throw to Brown, Martavis Bryant, or Marcus Wheaton, if the pressure came in too fast, he could always dump it off to Le'Veon. And Le'Veon would take that ball 20, 30 yards, and we would, we'd play off of that. But when you don't have that in the game plan, you have to change things up. You have to change the channel. And the TV stations we were changing our channels to wasn't working. So, and the Ravens, they played off of that because now they have a linebacker. They can send another linebacker in the rush on Ben because they know there wasn't a release valve. And Dree Archer was running into like trees. I mean, he couldn't separate himself. He's not a blocker because he's only 5 foot whatever. And he couldn't, granted, defense can't see him, but Ben can't see him either when he crosses the line. So it's kind of hard to give him the ball.
Right.
So right off the bat, there goes your running game. Now we're one-dimensional now. So, and like I said, total yards rushing, 49 yards rushing on the night, 25 attempts for 49 yards. You're not going to win ball games like that.
Nope. And not only that, the fact is that, if you look at the other side of the ball, the passing, Antonio Brown, 9 receptions for 117 yards, which I thought in this game he wouldn't be the main target, but again, he was the main target, 9 for 117. And Bryant, 5 for 61, 1 touchdown. Got close to getting another touchdown,
right.
But, things happen. The ball got knocked out of his hand. And Heath Miller, 6 for 76. And I thought Heath Miller should have had a lot more balls than that, only because I believe Heath Miller should at least had 10 to 11 balls in this game, only because.
Easy, every game.
Yeah,
every game.
You got teams that use their tight ends well are teams that are going to make it into the playoffs or advance into the playoffs or even further. If you look at the New England Patriots or whatever with Gronk, they use the heck out of this guy, and because linebackers usually have a hard time sticking up with the tight ends, and the tight ends, if they have to cover a good tight end coming off the line, then it bothers their blitz packages.
Right, and Le'Veon Bell complimented Miller on those pass plays because now the linebackers don't know who to cover. They got to cover one or both. So now that leaves more time for Ben back in the pocket to throw it to Brown or Bryant. So, right. I mean, one guy doesn't make a team, but if you look at the stats, it kind of does.
Yeah, and it appears that way right now for us, for the Steelers. So hopefully this year in this upcoming draft, which we'll talk about a little later, that might be one of the needs they're going to probably have to address again or take a look at.
Right.
So,
and you look at the penalties. Let's go over total yards for the Steelers. 387 total yards for the Steelers, 295 for the Ravens, 22 first downs for the Steelers, 19 for the Ravens. Penalties were huge. Now you're talking about a division team. The Steelers and the Ravens beat up each other every game. And for the Ravens to come out of a game like this, a playoff game, with only 2 penalties for 14 yards, you got to be scratching your head or shaking your head in fear. What's going on here? And the Steelers penalized 8 times for 114 yards. And there were some big plays. We had 2 touchdowns called back. And it's just, I don't know, folks. I mean, you call like you see it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Turnovers hurt us huge. Heath Miller, that fumble, we were waiting for that to happen, the way he carries the ball. And the interceptions by Roethlisberger.
Right.
You have 3 turnovers that you can't win games by turning the ball over, and Ravens only had 1 turnover, Tiz.
Well, and not to mention the 5 sacks that the Ravens picked up in this game. Granted, with Ben and his style of play, I'd take it or leave it with that because that's his style of play, so he will give up some sacks. But, if you put all those together, the 5 sacks, the 2 interceptions, the 1 fumble, that all adds up to a disaster, for our offensive side of the ball.
Right. And, going into halftime, you're losing by 1 point.
Right.
That's not too bad. I mean, you're still in the game. But when you drive the ball down the field in your red zone 3 times and you only come out with field goals, you add that up, field goals, no touchdowns, turnovers, bad penalties. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a bad cake I don't want to eat.
Exactly. Well, like we said, Flacco in this game, I mean, he didn't do spectacular, but he did okay. I mean, he basically manned his ship. He was 18 for 29, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. Almost had a third, actually, to be honest. He threw a long ball in the left-hand corner. I forgot who the receiver was that caught it, but
it was Torrey Smith out of bounds, 1 foot in.
Right, and which was close, almost another touchdown.
Very close.
Right, and the run game did okay. I mean, the Steelers did well, kind of stuffing the run. Forsett, 16 carries for 36 yards, and really they kind of were trying to. The Steelers are kind of good at the run stopping, but again, here we go with the receiving aspect of it, which I don't believe they did horrible at, but not enough to keep us stopped because they continually let the Ravens convert third downs.
Right, and that hurt us too. Moving the ball early in the first half, getting in the red zone, what you want to do, you want to move the ball, but you got to put up 7s. You can't put up 3s. And we did, late in the game, have a block punt, which would have been fantastic for a return for a touchdown, would have really put us in the game. But, it ended up rolling out of the end zone, 2 points, we got that. And I didn't understand going for the 2-point conversion when we scored the last touchdown. We still had a lot of time left to go in the game. I think that we should have waited,
right?
And make that be the last play, because as things were going down, Steelers were behind by 1 score. If we score a touchdown and we're 1 possession, but since we went for the 2-point and it was a ridiculous, horrible attempt, unbelievable. But when you rush things, you're not thinking clearly. But you know what? If we make it, if Tomlin goes for it, makes it, he's a hero. But right now, he was a GOAT because that was a horrible throw. It was bad.
Well, I mean, if you look at all the figures and the sacks, the interceptions, the fumbles, our defense realistically only getting 1 fumble, 1 sack, and just a horrific play on the offensive side of the ball, settling for field goals, not doing the touchdowns. This is what you end up with. You end up with early exit in the playoffs at home, no less, losing 30-17 to a vaunted, heated rivalry opponent, the Baltimore Ravens. And this is where we stand next year. Going into next year with I'm not going to say a ton full of questions, but some questions.
Right.
And that's what the Steelers will be going into next year. So we have to figure that out and try to learn from this game. But you know what, guys? We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to still go over just some key factors in this game against the Ravens that we think, besides the stats that kind of pertain to this loss against the Ravens. And we'll go into that. And then we'll also touch base on some needs we think the Steelers will need for this year's upcoming draft.
That's coming pretty soon, a couple months.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next up after this commercial break on Steeler Nation Live.
Uniform Express, located on 1408 Buffalo Road, Rochester, New York, for your police, fire, or EMS supplies. One of Rochester's top and finest suppliers of shirts, pants, shoes, boots, and accessories for your professional uniform needs. Uniform Express also does embroidery and screen print for team uniforms, jerseys, and corporations. Hours are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also go to their website at www.uniformexpress.com or call Brian at 585-529-4245. That's 585-529-4245. And let Brian know you heard his ad on our show, Steeler Nation Live.
Welcome back to Steeler Nation Live from Rochester, New York here, when it's 2 degrees below zero. I'm Big O.
I'm Big Tiz.
And before we went to commercial break, we went over the stats, and now we're just going to kind of, enhance the number game with what we feel or what we thought were, some of the big problems we had during our loss and what we think the Pittsburgh Steelers went wrong. And obviously, it's a no-brainer. Number one, Bell not playing the game. Was it a wise decision to keep him out, Big Tiz?
I say it was. I mean, we're trying to look at this guy. We want the longevity from this guy. We don't want him ending his career early with the Steelers off of a game when we did have some backs that could have possibly done the job if the holes were there.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to look at different aspects of it. This is a young guy who we want to build things off of. This is a young guy who we want to be with the Steelers for the long haul, who could probably set records, if kept at the pace that he's going right now.
Absolutely.
So why jeopardize that early in his it's game life. Let's just go for what we got, and a resilient team will win. Even if they face obstacles. And right now, the Steelers aren't at that point right now.
Right. Now, we talked about this before the show. Steelers are sending 5 Pro Bowlers to the Pro Bowl. We got Pouncey. We got Big Ben.
Right.
We have Antonio Brown. We have Lawrence Timmons and Le'Veon Bell. Who said that he will play in this game? What do you think, Big? Is that a wise decision?
Nope. Heal up. Get ready for next year. Take the months off. Heal. Get totally healed. Come back full strength and tear up the league next year. I'm not a big proponent of these. What do you call these? These AFC, NFC Pro Bowl games.
Whatever.
Yeah,
now,
to me that's just a way for another player. Yeah, you get recognized for being the South Standish player. Let it be that. Recognize them. Whatever you do, bowl against each other, whatever you want to do. But contact, come on.
It's a great honor for not everybody can be in the Pro Bowl. Not everybody can take their family to Hawaii, but even though we all know they can afford it.
Right.
But I think that just being there and being nominated is just as prestigious, because when you walk away from that game, whether you score 10 touchdowns or if you only have 10 carries, you're in the Pro Bowl. You already got that accolade. You're already set in stone. Le'Veon Bell, 2015 Pro Bowl in Hawaii, he was there. Now, we don't want the scenario, Le'Veon Bell, Pro Bowler, career-ending injury, for what? You already have the paycheck. It's in your contract. You know what I mean? We understand it's a personal thing. But when you get in this situation, you have to think of the bigger picture. You got to think of all the millions of Steeler fans out there that you're rushing for the Steelers, not for the AFC. I understand it's you want to show off your skills to all the other guys, but we got to get a mindset here. We have to focus on what's beneficial, more beneficial. You got the accolades, you got the money, you're in Hawaii, you get your family, great time. Why jeopardize your career and your future by running a couple plays because you got the paycheck? You're not going to get more money. You know what I'm saying?
And to me, the waste of this game is the fact that these guys they're not going to really go all out. And who could blame them?
Right. It only takes one. It's not. We're not saying that somebody's going to do a dirty shot on Le'Veon
Right.
But we're just anything could happen. He could sprain his knee. Making a turn, somebody could roll on him.
Right.
There's a lot of. Why would you want to jeopardize that?
Right. And it's a game that realistically nobody even recognized. I couldn't even tell you who the last 3 MVPs of the last AFC, NFC Pro Bowls were.
All I know was beautiful and sunny. And I caught some of the game because it was late in the day and they really didn't, market it and promote it too much. But it's not like the NHL. It's not like the MLB. It's not like the NBA.
Right.
Well, it's getting there with the NBA. No defense, all offense. But when if you're not in a state where you can get seriously hurt, anybody can get hurt. Exactly. Any given day, anybody can get hurt no matter what. But when you're already walking into the game already with an injury, it's not like a broken arm that can be healed. This is like your knee. All right, there's so many intricate parts in your knee that you can destroy and tear and ruin your career. We don't want that to happen.
Exactly. So that's why I say no, nix the Bell in the Pro Bowl. So that's a foregone conclusion. I said let's move on.
Move on.
So one of the other key factors in the loss was Ben. Ben not being the typical Ben. It just seemed like he was in the game, but it just seemed like he was just there.
Yeah, he was in the game, he was out of the game. But what I mean by that is he wasn't going through the motions that he normally did. He wasn't his mind wasn't in the game.
Right. And it appeared that way. I mean, it appeared like he was basically just going through the motions. I mean, a lot of his passes were behind receivers.
A lot of them were forced.
Or off, or he was throwing it into one defensive back under, one over the top, and he was just launching a ball. And I know, just like the commentator said, he said there's a couple of times he has to look at himself. It's like, why did I throw that?
Right. And then when you're looking at the Jumbotron saying, hey, what did I actually do? You don't like that. You don't like your quarterback looking up there and with that confused look. What did I just do? Why did I throw that ball away? But and it's just you need to be. It's not a regular season, and this is just my opinion. But once you get into the playoffs, you have to enhance yourself. It's you clean the slate, and you have to do better than what you did last time. 6 touchdown passes, you got to do better than that. You have to try and get yourself. It's almost impossible to do that, especially when your star running back that you threw 3 of those touchdowns to wasn't playing. But you have to try and better that. You can't fall back and say what can we do better. You have to do better.
Right.
You have to work harder. And unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. And like I said, it wasn't just Ben, but it was also other things. There was costly, questionable penalties in the game, and if you look at some of the other games over the weekend with the Cowboys and their pass interferences in their game.
No pass interference.
Well, yeah, there was no pass interference, but.
And Des Bryant didn't run on the field without his helmet yelling and screaming at the refs. That didn't happen either.
But you know what? It's just been bad reffing and these playoff games, which is unbelievable. I mean.
We had 2 touchdowns called back. We talked about that earlier for penalties, and it just so happens to be holding penalties, which you can call holding on any given play.
Yeah.
You watch we talked about this before many times in past shows. You watch any NFL game, and when the announcers try to explain what holding is, and you watch every single snap of that football, that is happening. At least 1 to 2 players on the offensive line is holding somebody on every play. And it just so happens to be called when we do great things. And we had to deal with that all last season. It got better this season because the Steelers were, actually, getting down and not doing as much as what they're not supposed to be doing. But you watch any football game. Watch football game this weekend, folks, and you'll see what I mean. Everybody is holding everybody. It all depends on when the referee's going to throw a flag.
You're exactly right. But like we said, I mean, we'll go down the list, but there's a lot of things that added to this loss. I mean, kicking field goals and not scoring touchdowns, that was huge in this game. And we always said that there was a lot of Steelers problems. Sometimes we get down to the red zone and we just bog down and settle for 3. You can't keep doing that. This is exactly how you keep teams in the games, is when they're not scoring touchdowns or scoring field goals. You score two field goals, so what? They score a touchdown, they're ahead. You gotta score touchdowns when you're in that vicinity in the red zone to score. You can't keep settling for field goals. I'd rather us have not too many field goals kicked this year and be on a barrage scoring touchdowns, because that's what wins games.
Right. And it's not the fact that we're going to the end zone and not making touchdowns. We're not even getting that far. We're getting not even first downs. It's like we get to that one point in the field and we stall.
Right.
And it's not like we're throwing in the end zone. And when Ben does throw in the end zone, he's getting intercepted.
Right.
So because you become one-dimensional, and the defenses know that.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on a lot. Well, a lot of things that kind of plagued us this year and in games has been turnovers. Turnovers has been huge for the Steelers. Either, let's go on both sides of the ball. Offensively with our turnovers, and defensively with us not getting enough turnovers.
Right. You look at every game that we won this year, and you tally up how many turnovers, you'll see no turnovers.
Right.
You go back and see all the games we won when Ben had a great day, how many interceptions? You won't see any. But the games we lost, you could tally up 3, 4 turnovers, 5, 8 sacks. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, you don't turn the ball over. You do what you're supposed to do. You score touchdowns, not field goals. You win games. And we're not saying that Sweezum is our savior, because he's not. I mean, granted, when the pressure was on, the average field goals that he kicked in the first half were 49 yards.
Right.
And under pressure in Pittsburgh is not an easy thing to do.
Exactly.
But you don't want to put your kicker in that position. You want him to be getting extra points. You have to go for the touchdown. You're not going to run a touchdown, especially without your number one back. You're not going to run the ball out 30, 25 yards out and score a touchdown. You have to throw the ball. You have to mix it up. I didn't see any play actions during that spree in the first half. I didn't see, any trick plays. You know what I mean? You have to keep the defense on their toes. And basically the Ravens knew what we were going to do, and they shut us down. They did it well. And you got to give kudos to the Ravens, even though I can't stand them, but they played great football.
Oh yeah, much given to them. I mean, they're advancing, and they came to us on our home turf and totally played a sound game on all aspects of the game, and we did. We played poorly defensively, we played poorly offensively, and that's what we got. Right. But just like one of the other key factors that I seen in the loss was, like Tomlin always preached, not enough splash plays in the game, and this is what's been happening with the Steelers. I mean, you go from game to game that there were no big plays. If you go back to the Cincinnati game, the huge splash plays of Pittsburgh at Cincinnati was the 80-yard bomb that basically almost kind of sealed the game for us.
Right.
But the things like that, we're not getting enough of that on a consistent base. And when I use that word consistency, that's what we had none of this year.
Right. And it's either feast or famine. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. We either won games soundly, or we lost games soundly. There was no in between. There was no almost. There was no last second field goal missed. There was no last second field goal against us to beat us. We either got our asses handed to us, or we handed ours to somebody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's just there's no in between. And that's got to change. You have to, you can't sit back and expect the other teams to lose. You have to get out there and you have to win. It's simple. You have to go for the touchdowns. That's what you're out there for. That's why you're a quarterback. That's why they pay you all this money. That's why you have 5 prolific receivers at your disposal, not including Le'Veon Bell or Heath Miller. You got 5 wideouts that are Pro Bowl Hall of Fame material right now.
Right.
Like Martavis Bryant just came up with his height, size, and speed. Come on. And with Antonio Brown's his ability for yards after the catch.
Yeah, well, I mean, as you always say, we have a plethora of receivers, and
it's my word, plethora.
Yeah,
can't spell it, but it sounds pretty damn good.
And there's no excuse for us having problems finding guys wide open. To me, if you go to 5 wide sets, there should be guys running all over the place. And these are quality receivers. That's
right, and you have to have defenders to cover these receivers, so you don't have a big pass rush on Ben. It seems like the least amount of pass rushers, Ben has the most trouble.
Exactly, and you're right. That's funny you said that, and that's exactly a right analogy for it. The less pass rushers is where he seems to find himself in trouble, which I guess that means that they're covering more downfield. But you got 5 speedy receivers out there. You got to find somebody.
5.
Not everybody has 5 quality defensive backs or linebackers covering these receivers.
Like Subway, 5. $5 footlong. You talking about $5
Yeah, but if you look at some other aspects, and we're almost to the end of that, but not enough running the ball, and I guess you can equate that a lot to, a lot of teams getting these 8-man fronts against Pittsburgh, because it seems to be that with the Steelers, they feel like if you can force Ben to have to throw the ball all day, there's a possibility he'll make a mistake.
Absolutely, or get sacked.
Right. So I guess that's what a lot of teams are relying on now, and and we have a quality back, but it's hard to find holes when you got 4 or 5 guys blocking 6 to 7 guys almost coming on every play.
No, unbelievable. And then when you come into a game with no running attack. I mean, when you rush under 50 yards, we all know we can make excuses and whatnot. But Le'Veon would have changed all that, and it would have added different flair to the offensive scheme. But since it wasn't like a big surprise, it's not like nobody knew he wasn't playing. You have to adjust. You have to improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Right.
And next man up. But, I mean, everybody on that team is a Pro Bowler, I believe. It's just they have to believe in themselves, and it didn't look like it there back in Pittsburgh when he lost to the Ravens. I don't know.
Well, and if you look at it, I'll let Big O talk about this one. The last play where guys were wide open in that interception to Antonio Brown in the end zone was another key factor that added to this loss for the Ravens.
I don't mean to throw fuel on the fire, but if you watch the game film and you rewind this touchdown and you could see, I'll mention it now, and then you'll look at it and you're like, oh wow, you're right. If you look, when Ben drops back in the pocket, his eyes are solely on Antonio Brown and his route. If you look in the middle of the field, you see Dree Archer doing a post pattern and Heath Miller doing a cross pattern, wide open, both receivers wide open. I think Dree Archer, if you pause it at one point, he's standing pretty much on the goal line wide open. You could have threw it to him, touchdown. Or he could have dumped it to Heath Miller, was 5 to 8 yards off the line, and he could have just stumbled in. And it was just, not to make excuses for Ben, I really do believe he had a concussion. And I think that he was focusing so much on Brown that he just totally he didn't check off the other receivers. Had he done that, we scored a touchdown, different ball game. But we could, like I say, if my aunt had, she'd been my uncle. But we could what if all day. It's so easy to Monday morning quarterback, but it's just something that we need to look for in the future, and I think we need to turn into that.
Well, you know what? In saying that, with the Steelers and this loss versus the Ravens, we're going to be having the draft coming up on Steeler Nation Live. We're not sure the time frame yet. It's still early in the season. Just finished up this one, so a lot of us are still hurting here on Steeler Nation Live.
Oh, yeah.
But we want you guys to make sure you check us out for the draft show. That's going to be huge. That'll be somewhere in the late April, early May type of time frame. So we'll let you guys know, and we'll try to keep you posted on updates on when the show is going to be. But you know what, Big O? What do you think some of the Steelers need in this offseason for the draft?
All right, my picks is, I know it's early, and the Steelers need a lot of help. We do, believe it or not. No matter what the record was this year and how better we did last year because of the draft, I think we need in the first round. Now we draft 22nd. All right, we the 22nd pick. I think we need to go for a quarterback, and I'll tell you why. We don't even know if Ben's going to be back in Pittsburgh next year.
Right.
Okay. We all 99% of us believe he will be because he wants to retire as a Steeler. We really hope so because he is our team. With that being said, we cannot expect Landry Jones to be our future quarterback. I was excited we got him in the draft. I had so much expectations about this guy. Good size, great instincts, good arm. Let's develop him. And as I look to see what he's done, as far as since he's been drafted, preseason games or whatnot, when I'm looking at Gradkowski as a better quarterback than Landry Jones, we got some problems here. Now, if you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, you ever seen that movie?
Yes.
Now, Uncle Rico, here's what I want you to do, folks. Go home and YouTube, when Uncle Rico is talking about his football days, watch Uncle Rico throw the ball. Then YouTube Gradkowski throwing the ball. You would swear to God Uncle Rico is out there throwing the ball. I don't want to emulate it, but folks, it's a pretty funny thing. I did it the other day, and I was like, holy cow, that's Uncle Rico. So check it out. I really do think, we need help in the secondary. Because I don't see Ike Taylor coming back. You could probably expect Palomalo to retire. We got Will Allen. I just don't see it, but we do need help in cornerback. And also, we still have yet to find that prolific passer, the big guy that will just rush through the line like a J.J. Watt. We need somebody like that, somebody big. We have Timmons, we have Jason Worlds, we have Tuitt, who's like 800 pounds, and he can get in the backfield, but quarterbacks should run around him. We need that guy. We need the Harrison heart. We need the Timmons size. And we need Jack Lambert's ferociousness. That's what we need when we draft a linebacker this year. Not just somebody to fill a slot, but we need somebody who's going to start. Jarvis Jones will be healthy next year. He'll be ready to go. Hopefully, McClendon, he'll be ready to go with nose tackle, so we have to stop moving Worlds all over the place and not having our linebackers be more pass blockers, but quarterback sackers.
Right.
Rushing the quarterback. And that was huge, putting pressure on, once we got pressure on the quarterbacks, that's when they made mistakes, and that's when our defense thrived. We got Willie Gay with the 3 pick sixes. Why? Because we put pressure on the quarterbacks. They just didn't say, hey, it's Willie Gay day, and, let him do a pick 6. That's because we got pressure. Then after that, we can go for an offensive guard, offensive tackle. You always want to add depth.
Right.
to the offensive line.
Yeah, you
always want to add depth.
You always got to find some good, jewel out there that's a heck of a blocker. And that's what the Steelers need because, like I said, the run game actually did well at times, but there were times where it just kind of didn't do what it's supposed to be. So, we do need, especially, you got to always be on the outlook for a good offensive tackle.
Right. That's
a definite because Ben's backside has definitely got to be covered.
Right. Mike Adams, he's not the cure. He's not the future. And we need somebody who can play multiple positions, not only center,
right,
but guard and tackle. So we could expect, whoever we draft can play all those positions. And here's my shocker, Big Tiz. Not really a shocker, but I want Pittsburgh to pick a kicker high in the draft. And I'll tell you why. That's one of the biggest issues that the special teams had this year was Swisham not being able to kick the ball out of the end zone, giving teams opportunities to score on kickoffs, and not only score, but get good field position. And that's huge in this day and age. We need somebody who's going to put out the end zone, and not only that, punter. Brad Wing, good job, but we don't want a good job. Now, if you watched Alabama get their asses handed to them, their punter, I can't think of his name. It escapes me right now. I want to say Wilcox. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. But the punter for Alabama, this kid is amazing. I think he's a junior. But if this kid goes in the NFL draft, I think the Steelers need to pick him up. This kid is good. This kid I think, was averaging 60-plus yards punting. This kid could put the ball inside the 5. I don't know how many times he did it during the game.
Right.
And, granted, it was in a dome, but, this is what we need. We need help on special teams. We need kickers and punters. We need to go high in the draft with these guys, believe it or not. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, guys, so once you see that some of the needs that the Steelers have in this upcoming draft, we're just touching a quick base on it, and we'll dove more into that as, when we do our draft show. But let's talk about people who are not going to be returning with the Steelers next year. You did mention a couple, such as Ike Taylor, and possibility of Polamalu probably retiring. In that last game, he just basically looked like Ben out there. It looked like he was just there and
going through the motions.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I think the guy is still a great talent, but now he's to the point to where he can't cover his mistakes. He doesn't have the speed to get back to cover a mistake or the speed to even cover some of these receivers out there. And a lot of it could be due to him having later in his career these knee injuries. And these knee injuries will keep you from cutting quickly or making your quick moves. And it seems like that's what he's having a lot of problems with. But one of the big questions is Dick LeBeau. Will he be back next year?
That's the thing that scares me about that, and I'm glad you brought that up, Big Tiz, is that nobody's talking about Dick LeBeau. Nobody's talking about his future, which means that people are talking, but they're not coming out and saying it. I would not be surprised and I would not be shocked if you heard before or right after the Super Bowl that Dick LeBeau is going to be retiring. Now, there's a coach frenzy out now that everybody's looking for a head coach. All these offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators being these vacant head coaching jobs. Do not be surprised if you see one of those vacancies, Dick LeBeau. Do I want to see him gone? Absolutely not, because he's been with the Steelers so long.
Right.
He's like a Rooney. You know what I mean? Even though he was head coach with the Bengals at some time in his tenure, don't want to hold against him. But I feel right now it'd be disheartening to see him go. But then again, we want to get somebody in there younger, more vibrant, to do more dazzling and daring things on defense. Don't get me wrong, Dick LeBeau is a genius. Mm-hmm. He is a genius. But everybody has their time.
Right. And I think he is. He's getting to that point where it's getting to be his time. And don't get me wrong, this guy, he leaves the Steelers. They're going to pick him up just like that.
Right.
And that's the scary thing, and it probably, most likely, could be somebody within our division, which, who could blame him? But the fact is, like you said, there's going to be a lot of coach openings, and maybe he just wants to try his hand at it one more time before, he leaves out at. I don't know how old he is now. Is he 75, 76?
I think he's 78. I could be wrong. He's
up there. But the guy still got that fire. You can see it on him on the sideline on TV. So it's something to be reckoned with.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that anything negative, towards him. I'm not saying he's losing a step. He's losing his mind, whatnot. It's just that, it's when do you say when?
Right.
You know, and maybe he'll be back for another year. Maybe he won't. But when you want to look towards the future, you know, I mean, you have to start thinking now. You don't want to be in a position of what do we do now?
Right.
You want to be in that position of what if.
Exactly.
So now we can do this.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's going to be huge. But also a huge thing on defense, James Harrison.
Yeah, him and Kiesel, I believe as well that both of them probably will not be returning next year. I mean, they both gave us a great spark this year, but the Steelers have to start taking those steps to advancing into the next level or whatever level they're going to do. You got to take your lumps and bruises and you got to cut off the old. These guys did it for us. Much appreciative to these guys, and these guys will be Steelers for life no matter what. But you have to start looking elsewhere, and you have to start really, really getting your defense young.
Right. And the thing that's not scary but kind of is scary, that the two biggest prolific pass rushers this year, you know, considering there were injuries to, you know, our top players, that Brett Kiesel and James Harrison were the defense.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, these guys came right in, you know, off of hiatuses, layoffs, or whatever you want to call it. These guys came in and they added that fire back into the defense. And for these older guys, you'd wish these younger guys would sit back and watch and learn and look at that fire and that passion. Even LeBeau said these guys knew how to get after the ball. These guys before these younger guys that they brought in. And, you know,
hopefully it rubbed off on them.
Yeah, but that's what we're hoping. It's a learning process. And you have Ben Tate. You think Ben Tate will be back next year?
I really don't think so. I think he's, you know, definitely a quality backup running back. You know, he did it in Houston without a problem. He did it in Cleveland without a problem. It's not like he was, you know, crying to leave the teams.
Right.
It's just that what is the offense going to look like? What is Todd Haley going to do with Ben Tate? Do we keep him on? I think we should keep him on. I really do, because he could bring a lot to the table. He could also bring some mentorship to the young backs, and also be, you know, a great asset to Le'Veon Bell. But you know how much I love this Josh Harris kid. I really do believe that he has a future in Pittsburgh. He just has to have the chance.
Right.
He had the opportunity to do it, but when Ben was throwing like he was throwing, and when you get behind and your running attack is not really doing that well, you're gonna you know, deviate from it and become one-dimensional. So you really can't have this as a litmus test for Josh Harris. I think the real test is going to be next spring training, and just see what this kid can do. Like I said, you take if Rashard Mendenhall and Willie Parker had a baby, this is what this kid is going to be like. I'm telling you, this is your. He's the back that will hit a hole. You tell him what hole to hit, and he'll go through it. He's not your Le'Veon. He'll dance at the line of scrimmage and find a hole. This kid will make hole. And let me tell you, when he broke that run against Cincy, that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers need. Le'Veon can dance all he wants, but Josh Harris is the guy who's going to knock you down.
Right. And that's one thing I was going to say. I wasn't going to say the baby thing, but I was going to say that Josh Harris, he kind of reminds me in his uniform and the way he looks and the running style of Willie Parker.
Right.
Yeah, he's just like a little bit taller of a Willie Parker type. And I used to love Willie Parker, but like I said, before he was on his way out of Pittsburgh, it was just, I don't think that's when our line was starting to decline. Yep. I believe he was a quality back.
Yeah, and he's got the speed of Mendenhall.
Right.
So, I mean, nothing but great things. The kid came from Wake Forest. Look at the highlights from this kid in Wake Forest. Beautiful. I mean, I don't understand why this kid didn't start, but when you're behind Le'Veon Bell, what are you going to do?
Hey guys, you know what? We're going to go right to a commercial break. When we come back from commercial break, we're going to talk about our Super Bowl predictions for this ending season of the 2014 year. And we're also going to give you our final thoughts. And we got something else we want to talk about at the end of the show. Next up on Steeler Nation Live.
4-of-a-kind consignment and resale, Jeromesville, Ohio. Everyone knows everybody. Everyone calls your friend. You don't need an invitation, just kick off your shoes and come on in. At 4-of-a-kind Consignment and Resale, they have antiques, vintage items, electric items, clothing, and housewares. 4-of-a-kind Consignment and Resale is a 4-generation family-owned establishment that also has Muffler and More, Spade Web Design and Publishing, and Spade Enterprises, a business that loves and cares about the community. Even though they are in Ohio, 4 of a Kind Consignment and Resale has a ton of steel items for sale now and even more during the season. They're closed on Mondays, but they're open Tuesdays through Sundays. Call Heidi. Her phone number is 567-203-7858. That's Heidi at 567-203-7858. Or look for her on the web at spadeinc.com/4oak.html. They ship everywhere.
Welcome back, Steeler Nation Live. Big Tiz.
I'm Big O.
Hey guys, you know what? Let's talk about the Super Bowl. Let's talk about, we're going to give you a quick synopsis of the path to the Super Bowl, who we think here on Steeler Nation Live will probably win the Super Bowl this year.
Right. Big shocker. Now, this really irritates me, Big Tiz, and you know how I feel about this. The Carolina Panthers come in to the playoffs. 2 games under 500 plus a tie. I don't care you win a division. You shouldn't be there. You got teams like the AFC North. They had the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Bengals. Why? Because there are 2 to 3 games above 500. They deserve to be there. Not the Panthers. It should be anybody below 500 should not have a chance to be in the play. I don't care how horrible your division is. You should not be in it. The Seahawks did it a couple years ago.
Right.
With their 7-9 record, whatever, made the playoffs, early exit. But it's a disgrace and an embarrassment to the NFL that this is the kind of caliber teams we have going to the playoffs. All right, I had my say. With that being said, Tiz, what do you think is going on in the NFC? We'll get rid of them guys first.
Well, the NFC, you know what? You got the Cowboys going to the Packers, and I believe in this weekend's coming up game, I believe it's going to be pretty cold out there. The Cowboys historically don't win too many games when the temperature dips below a certain degree, and this is one of those games. This is a great game for the Packers, where I can see the Packers going out front early and beginning to start to put the muscle to the Cowboys, because I believe their main focus is going to be to shut the run down first.
Right. Now, let's not forget, the Cowboys were average at home, and I believe undefeated on the road.
Right.
So going into Green Bay, and you also have to take into consideration, is Aaron Rodgers the guy who's going to get the Packers to the Super Bowl? Is he hurt? I don't know. He seems to be hurt.
Right.
But with this week of rest, is that going to be enough for Aaron Rodgers?
I say it is. The Packers have a lot of weapons. They kind of actually match up well with the Cowboys. They both have weapons on the offensive side of the ball, and they both have so-so to mediocre type defenses. So I believe the Packers will win this game.
I'd have to give the edge to the Packers on defense. I have to give them an edge. Clinton Ha-Ha Dix, what a great acquisition. The Packers picked him up. We talked about last year's draft that we hoped that Pittsburgh would pick him up.
Right.
Unfortunately, we did not. Vaccaro, we hope the prolific cornerbacks. But with that being said, I think if you put all the positions together, even with the Cowboys doing as well as they did this year, I would have to give the edge to the Packers. You got Aaron Rodgers if he's healthy. You got Corliss, the tight end. You got Randall Cobb. You got Jordy Nelson. You got the running game. Let's talk about the running game here. You have Eddie Lacy. You have Starks. You have Kuhn. You have a prolific backfield right there, and you're at home.
Right.
Cowboys, on the other hand, you got Romo. You got DeMarco Murray. You also got Dunbar, and you got Randall in the backfield. So the running game, if it's there, it's almost equal. But then you got 2 receivers for Cowboys. You got Dez Bryant, and you got Williams, I think his name is.
Yeah.
So plus you got to give. I'm giving the Packers the edge on this one. I think the Packers beat the Cowboys 27-23 at home.
That sounds about right. And I'll stick with that score. I like that. But next up, you got the Panthers versus the Seahawks.
Now,
I can say in this way, I believe the Panthers have been playing pretty good ball as of late, but I can see the Seahawks basically disrupting everything on for the defensive side of the ball and making a heck of a day for Cam Newton.
Right.
And once you start to disrupt Cam Newton, I believe everything else is over for the Panthers.
now let's not forget we're playing in Seattle,
Right.
so game over.
Yes.
I mean, we touch base on going near the end of the season. Tight end Greg Olsen was the security blanket for Cam Newton. Trust me, I know he was on my fantasy team. He didn't do squat for me the last half of the season. So with that being said, you got Cam Newton. You can put pressure on him.
Right.
You have Calvin Benjamin. You got him, the only receiver on that team. You got no rushing game anymore because we don't even know who the running backs are and if they're even going to be playing. So, and you're going into Seattle. You got Russell Wilson, who not only can throw the ball, can run, and he's been running as of lately. And Lynch, when he's not running the ball, Wilson's running the ball. And if he's not running, he's throwing the ball. And you got to give the edge to the Seahawks, not only because they're a better team, they have a better record, 12-4 at home, tough place to play, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. I'm going Seahawks with this one, and it's going to be huge. I'm saying Seahawks 35, Panthers 13. It's going to be a blowout in Seattle. Don't even bother watching the game.
You know, I won't even throw a score up on that because I don't even think the Panthers will be in that game at any aspect of it. They'll probably score 10 points and that'll be it. So
Cam Newton's been playing hurt all season.
Right. So,
all season.
And it'll come to show his head in this game.
Now don't forget, let's not forget Cam Newton, that horrific car accident where he almost rolled his truck off the bridge. Remember that? He does have some, broken bones in his body.
Right.
And he's been nursing broken ribs all year. Especially when the Steelers played him. I say throw some sauce on them ribs, he's done.
Well, that's pretty much what they'll do in this game. But after that, you'll have the Seahawks playing the Packers in Green Bay.
Everybody's got to go through Green Bay, folks.
Right. So I'm going to look at the Packers basically finding ways to win this game. They have the receivers, Jordy Nelson, and I believe the Seahawks are make it a tight game with their defense. They have a great defense, and that quarterback, I mean, he puts pressure on defenses. So the thing about it is, I think he'll keep it tight enough and close enough, but I can see the Packers winning that game. Maybe I'll say 17-10.
Yeah, I call that a close one too, Big Tiz. If Aaron Rodgers makes that alive against the Cowboys without any injury or sustaining more injuries to what he has now, I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a defensive battle. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to throw the ball. It's going to be a tight one. I'll say 17-13 Packers. In a blizzard in Green Bay.
Sounds good. Well, now that we did the NFC, let's go to the AFC side of the ball.
Oh, boy.
Okay, we're going to make this quick. We've got the Broncos and the Colts. And the Colts will be at the Broncos. And I can see the Broncos basically, to be honest, I was thinking this might be a blowout, but I think this might be kind of close because the Colts kind of played the Broncos pretty tight.
Now, let's not forget the Broncos. We found a running back. C.J. Anderson, now they're not one-dimensional anymore. This kid can run. He's a third running back this year for the Denver Broncos because of all the injuries to the other guys, and he stepped up, and he is the man. Now, we can run the ball. And plus, going to Mile High Stadium, and that's this time of the year, you just forget about it. The luck runs out, and I really don't think it's going to be that huge of a blowout, but Peyton Manning's going to have a great day. Don't forget, Emmanuel Sanders. That guy can catch Demaryius Thomas,
right.
Thomas. He's got a lot of prolific passers, receivers, and not only he's got a running game, and let's not forget that Denver defense has stepped up. They're not the defense of old. We won't call them the Orange Crush. They're not up there yet, but they're getting better there, and they should have crushed the Bengals. And you know what? I don't want to talk about that game, but let's go from there. Broncos beat the Colts 23-17. Not a blowout, but the score's not going to depict the play of the Broncos. 23-17 Broncos in Mile High Stadium.
I'll say it's a 27-14 score with the Broncos winning that game outright. So I believe the Broncos will advance. But then you have the other side of the ball, which is a matchup from from years before, with the Ravens actually coming up short against the Patriots in a game at the Patriots, and here we go again with the Ravens going back at the Patriots. And I believe this is a great matchup for the Patriots, and I believe the Patriots, they're not going to blow these guys out. I believe this might come down to a couple final plays again.
No, I have to say you're wrong on that, Big Tiz. I think the Ravens gave all they can give in Pittsburgh. I think it's done. We all know that Flacco, he can't throw the ball anymore. Mediocre at best. You stop the running game, pretty much game's over. And the Patriots, they're not really going to care too much about defense because they know Tom Brady is going to open it up. And a big asset to that offense is Emmanuel Sanders, who can get open. And we all know him, ex-Steeler, great receiver, great route runner, great hands, great speed. This is a guy who's going to disrupt anything. And let's not forget, healthy Gronkowski. He is back in the game. And LeGarrette Blount back in the New England Patriot uniform and doing a great job on the ground. I think the Patriots at home blow out the Ravens 42-13. I think this is going to be an annihilation. The Ravens aren't going to know what hit them. They're going to be so high because they beat the Steelers. They're going to go into this game. Patriots are going to blow them out 42-13.
No, I see a score more or less like 17-14, with the Patriots winning on a late field goal. And I think I say it that way because I believe the Ravens know what they were up against with them last time, and the Patriots play them well. So I believe the Patriots can beat them, and the Ravens can beat the Patriots because they have a good recipe for it. And not to say that he'd have to go for the long ball every time either. They got pretty good receivers out there for the Ravens, and it's just the fact of Flacco getting them the ball. And it doesn't have to be long ball either. It could be this short passing game. They got an okay running back in Fawcett or Forsett, whatever his name is. It doesn't matter. They beat us anyway. But you look at that, and I can see the Ravens losing this game. But like I said, 17-14 with the Patriots coming out on top. And once the Patriots advance from that game, it'll be the Patriots versus the Broncos. And in this game, I can see it. It's a good headline game, with the matchup of Brady versus Peyton Manning. And I can see in this game, I think Peyton Manning, it's one hurrah where I can see the Broncos actually ousting the Patriots. Now with this game, which I can see, it'll probably be played at the Patriots. That's the only deciding factor I can possibly see with the Patriots coming out on top, only because once I've noticed with Peyton Manning, once that pressure starts to get to him, it's a done deal. The Seattle Seahawks did the same thing to him as well. So if the Patriots can start with that defense and start getting these sacks and maybe an interception here early, I'll say the Patriots can win this game. And once saying that and thinking in my mind, I believe the Patriots might come out on top in this game. So I'm thinking the Patriots versus the Packers in the Super Bowl.
All right. What you got a score?
I'll say in this game versus the Broncos, 27-20.
All right. I was going to say 27-24, Patriots on top. But this is going to start out as a gunslinging game. Mind you, folks, when it first comes out, Manning's going to be throwing his arm off. Brady's going to throw his arm off, and it's going to slow down, and it's going to taper off, which is going to make it a close game at the end. 27-24. Patriots, because they have Tom Brady as your quarterback, and because we all know the referees and Tom Brady, and at home, it's hard to beat. So with that being said, Patriots beat the Broncos 27-24, which leads our matchup with the Patriots versus the Packers.
Right. In this game, to be honest, I can actually see the Packers winning this game, and the only reason I say that is because of better depth of wide receivers.
Right.
And I believe the Patriots can outlast them by scoring more often than they will, and the Patriots will put up some points, but I believe the Packers in the end will maybe come up with a crucial sack somewhere in the third or fourth quarter that'll kind of almost seal the game for them with them scoring off of that turnover and kind of making it hard for the Patriots to come back from. So I can see the Packers winning this game, and I'll say something like 28-14.
I agree with you. As much as it hurts me to say this, I really do believe the Packers have more weapons than the Patriots, and with the Patriots not playing at home,
Right.
You really don't get that home field referee advantage. So with that being said, and if Aaron Rodgers continues to be healthy through the playoffs, we also he's got more weapons than the Patriots do. Brandon LaFell, nothing to snicker at. He's a great receiver as well. Emmanuel Sanders, great receiver. But you got to look at the rushing core of the New England Patriots. Ben Vereen, Shane Vereen, Ben Vereen. We got some Vereen back there. He's back there. You got LeGarrette Blount. I mean, there's really nothing. If the running game falters, there's really nothing other than Gronkowski, which I do believe the Packers will have some kind of defensive scheme for him. You know, to cover him, to take him out of his game, because it has happened. Healthy Gronkowski has not been all in his game when the opposing teams had some kind of defensive scheme against him. And since this is a Super Bowl, it's going to be huge. The Packers have been to this dance before. It's not like they're going to get all nervous and mess things up. I do believe Packers win the Super Bowl. Breaks my heart to say it, but I do believe they win this 27-17. Packers win the Super Bowl. I'm ready to stop.
Hey, like you said, I like that. 27-17, and I believe the Packers will come out on top as well. You know what, guys? Like I said, this has been a long, long season for the Steelers. You know, we had many ups, many downs or whatever. But you know what? We're going to give you guys our final thoughts again as we close out this 2014 season. And I'll start with me, Big Tiz. I'm going to make it short, sweet, and simple. Guys, you know what? We've come a long path. The Steelers have been through many, many ups and downs during this season. The Steelers have come from looking like at the beginning of the season a legitimate Super Bowl contender when they almost destroyed Cleveland, only to let Cleveland come back in the game. The Steelers in the next couple games had some great wins, only to fluctuate again with the inconsistencies and lose to teams like Tampa Bay or whoever else was under 500 in the season. The Steelers found ways to lose to these guys. The Jets come to mind, just different things like that. Like the inconsistencies is what hurt the Steelers this year, but the Steelers seem to find ways to try to right the ship and then come back out on top again, bringing back the old wily veterans such as Kiesel, Harrison. These guys brought back that fire to the Steelers, but the Steelers have to recognize it was there, and these younger players have to learn to come back from that. So all I can say is Big Tiz to the Steelers, to the Steeler Nation, black and gold forever, black and gold for life. Guys, we'll be through these type of years with the Steelers, and all we have to do is learn from them and advance. And I believe the Steelers will advance. They just have to bring that younger blood in. And will LeBeau be there next year? I have no idea. We can only hope that if he does, he can learn to do some new wrinkles in this defense to help out things. But until then, as always, from Big Tiz to Steeler Nation, from Steeler Nation Live, black and gold forever.
Wow. I always get the short end of the stick. How can you top that? Which I don't try to top Big Tiz because I can't. It's not possible. But with that being said, what Pittsburgh has to do is continue to do in the draft what they did the past 2 years. It's not going to happen overnight, folks. Patience. You don't win Super Bowls overnight. You don't win Super Bowls on a whim. You don't win championships. You build champions. And that's what Pittsburgh's doing right now. This next draft is crucial, not only to keep this ball rolling, younger, faster defense, but what do we do on offense, our future quarterback? Ben's no spring chicken. Ben might not even be here next year if a contract does not come together, does not work out. Don't mean to scare you, but there's a lot of possibilities out there. I do see Ben retiring as a Steeler. Don't get me wrong. But what's after Ben? Is Landry Jones the answer? I don't think so. The Steelers need to look hard and long at these prospects of this year's draft, building for the future. We already got some kind of young, speedy defense implemented. Now we have to get the offense. We know it can work. We know we have a running attack. We know we can. We got Le'Veon Bell. We have 5 of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Not because I'm a Steeler fan, because you can look at the stats and up and coming, Martavius Bryant. What a great asset to the Pittsburgh Steelers receiving core. We have Heath Miller, exciting tight end. Just got to use him more. We need to build on this year's draft. And I guarantee you, Pittsburgh, if not next season in the Super Bowl, but within the next 2 years, Pittsburgh will be in the Super Bowl. But we have to think about our future. Who's going to be our leader when Ben's gone? Is it going to be Landry Jones? I don't think so. And it can go on and on and on. But this is the draft that's going to be most crucial because we have our players set now. But who we gonna have is that next man to stand up when somebody goes down, when somebody gets hurt. That's what we need to look for. And quarterback is our main problem right now for the future. We could always put a Band-Aid and some tape on the problems we have now, but that's only going to fix the problems of now, not the future. Do you want a legacy to continue in Pittsburgh, or do you want to just get free agents and just get by? Other teams have tried, other teams have failed. Buffalo Bills is the first team that comes to my mind. With that being said, let's build. Let's create a dynasty like we did in the 70s. It's not going to happen overnight, folks. Be patient. Pittsburgh will take over and become a dynasty once again.
There you have it. Hey guys, you know what? Like we said, this is the final show for our 2014 season, and you know what? It's been a long season. We want to thank a lot of you fans out there. We want to thank the sponsors as well, such as McGinney's and Auto Tomato, and places like that. These guys are
Uniform Express.
Yes.
For your uniform needs. Uniforms, shirts, pants, boots, fire, EMS, police gear. Uniform Express.
Guys, we're having from all you guys, and we here at Steeler Nation Live, we appreciate you. The fans, especially you guys, you give us the fire and the passion that we have. We get it from you guys as well. And we want to thank you guys for putting up the pictures that you guys put up there on our pick page. Your picks on our Steeler Nation Live website. Love it. Keep sending them, doing it during the off season. We want to see your Steeler picks out there because we want to let these other guys out there know that this is a true Steeler Nation, and show it by wearing your Steeler colors, your Steeler pride. And that's what we're asking you to do on our website. Show it, look at it, let a lot of other Steeler fans marvel at it, especially let a lot of fans from other teams marvel at it and see you guys out there with your black and yellow on and the pride that you guys shows. That's why we love this Steeler wall of pictures. And you know what? Maybe this season or this upcoming draft season, we're going to do a montage or something like that with all the pictures of all the wall of the fans on there. So you guys stay tuned for our upcoming show, which will probably be in August not August, but April, maybe early May.
Draft show.
Right. So guys, stay tuned, and there you'll see us again for another exciting season on Steeler Nation Live. So there you have it.
Hey, another special shout out. We want to give a great thanks to Joe Laurie for his commentating this year. Couple episodes. You can check back and see him. Up and coming prolific newscaster, Joe Laurie. And hopefully he'll be on board with Steeler Nation Live this season, next season, and many seasons to come. Great asset to Steeler Nation Live team. And I hope he stays on board with us because we have nothing but good things for him. And, it's a benefit to us as well when you get that kind of caliber and that kind of journalism coming to us when we can't do it. When we can't be there, Joey can.
Right.
He can bring the news to you as well. So we want to thank Joe.
So again, there you have it from Big Tiz.
And I'm Big O here in Rochester, New York.
We'll see you next time on Steeler Nation Live.
Don't forget, go to our website, www.steelernationlive.net. Check us out every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whatever. Check us out.
Big Tiz, Big O, Big Tiz, Big O. It's Steeler Nation, man. Yeah. Mr. Slum.